Hi. Hey. Hello. It's Skycatlive. What's up, guys? It's Saturday, 12:40 p.m. It's 73 degrees in my house, and it's 7/18/2026. And yeah, it's a Saturday, and it's a nice day. What's up, guys? I feel a little hungover, and I don't want to walk on my. I busted my toe. I kicked the rim of my tub the other day, like 2 days ago, and I busted my toenail and damn near broke my toe. I think I only bruised it, but yeah. And not walking today. I'm just gonna do some games. I woke up today and I sat here. Oh, I didn't sit here. I went out. I did an errand and I like did some stuff today. But I came back and I sat here before I started. And, excuse me, I'm just gonna turn my lights on. I didn't realize they aren't on. Give me just a second. Is that good? Yeah, I'm just gonna do that. Yep, there. So I woke up today feeling burnt out, and I'm not burnt out on music, and I'm not burnt out on being a singer, and I'm not burnt out on being a streamer or a content creator. I like doing those things, and I have no issue firing up live. What I have an issue with is I'm burnt out on the current generation of games. They don't seem to be making enough good ones to keep me engaged, and so I don't know. And I don't know what to do. I'm gonna go consult. Oh, I didn't fire off my kick. I'm going to drop it off the big face now, and we'll begin a discussion about being burnt out. And I will describe to the AI my problem, and I'll also go and take a look at YouTube here. Oh no, this was my kick thing, and then so. There we go. Google Gemini. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. So I'm going to have a discussion with the AI today. Hi, Jemmy. I am here to have a conversation with you today about how I think I'm kind of burnt out on the current generation of games, and I can't seem to find something to play, and I am having trouble wanting to go live without a mainstay game to play, and I'm just cycling in game after game after game right now. Like I'm cycling the main game I guess I'm maining I guess would be like 7 Days to Die, but I'm also playing Rust, and I have a base and a boat in Rust. And I'm also playing a lot of Fortnite and a lot of Overwatch, but I'm finding it difficult to want to play games. I find myself wanting to get on my stream each day and watch videos. Is there something I can do? What do people do to combat being burnt out on their main career? Yeah, okay. The game that's been on my mind is Starfield, I guess. Yeah, take breaks. Yeah, that's good stuff. Is there anything else? No, I don't think I want to do that. I think I'll do my 76 dailies.
Hey Psych2Goers, welcome back, and thanks for taking a breather with us. We know we could all use one. Burnout. It's finally getting recognition as an actual thing. It's not just a buzzword. It's not something made up. It's real and it's more common than you may
That
think,
sucks.
affecting people worldwide regardless of age or gender. Burnout. You might think of a candle's blackened, shriveled, worn out wick. If you feel how that wick looks, you can likely relate to burnout. These here are some ways to hopefully keep that candle wick conditioned, helping to avoid burnout. The best way to deal with it is to not get to that point in the first place. So, number 1, figure out what is stressing you. We're going to use the word avoid, and just clarifying, avoiding a stressor is not the same as avoiding responsibilities. A responsibility needs to be done, but you don't have to go about doing it in a stressful manner.
I feel that I'm looking for a new MMORPG, and I want that experience to happen again, and I don't care how bad it is. But the problem is all the games, they require too much effort or work. And it used to be there was more MMORPGs than I could play, but now I feel like I played almost all of them, and it doesn't feel like a new frontier anymore, and it's burning me out a little bit.
See what we mean? The best way to reconfigure this stressful process is whittle down and figure out what it is that's causing the stress. Here's a simple example. It's easy to say, this assignment is my stress. Getting it done is stressing me out. But when you step back, you realize the situation is more, I'm stressed because I feel tight on time, and I'm tight on time because I repeatedly chose other activities until there were only 24 hours left to get this done. So yes, you may require some time to practice self-awareness. As much as we never like to admit it, we sometimes build a whole lot of unnecessary stress for ourselves. So please don't do this to yourself. Number 2, complete the cycle. I know this sounds like we're suggesting you allow yourself to get more stressed, but we're not. Trust me, we're not. Burnout occurs because of prolonged, unending stress. It's essentially constantly treading water in the worst spot and never swimming to shore for rest. This is what we mean by complete the cycle. The book Burnout by PhD and DMA Nagoski twins describes the cycle generally as enter the stressor, like tight turnaround times. Then cortisol and adrenaline production are triggered from the stressor. This activates the survival response of fight, flight, or freeze. Impulsive reactive behavior happens to stop the feeling of which can be binging, eating, or streaming. We're not judging. And then completion is taking the step of meditative breathing, connecting with others, or other forms of emotional release. Burnout happens when you get stuck at the binging step. That impulsive action provides temporary, superficial relief, just enough to fool many of us into thinking, oh, we're all good now. Truthfully, the stress is still there under now, allowing it to continue frying and smoldering within. Number 3.
And I did not
Sleep.
win any of these.
If you had nap time in kindergarten, don't you wish that was still a normal part of your day? Sleep. Sleep is wonderful. Sleep is also important. A solid, healthy stretch of nighttime sleep is essential to overcoming or avoiding burnout. Humans
which is
are
just
generally
not
not
statistically
nocturnal by
very
nature.
likely.
We know this, yet we seem to be all too willing to sacrifice sleep as the first bartering chip when dealing with stress.
There, I want
We
an
tend to think
Executor
of
Navy,
sleep
and
as
that
a
makes up for all
reservoir
the other ones,
easily
I think.
refilled with catching up on the weekend or sleeping in on vacation. Unfortunately, sleep just does not work that way. You can't retcon the past sleep you lost by sleeping more in the future. So get a good sleep in the now. What is good sleep anyway? It's not that time you zoned out while reading, then woke up with a start when your forehead hit the desk. It is completing a full sleep cycle, including REM sleep. The result is you wake feeling refreshed and renewed. If you wake up still groggy or wanting to throw down in anger, you did not have a good night's sleep. To help you reach this fabled good sleep, employ sleep hygiene and prep. Hygiene is basically a condition conducive to maintaining health. So sleep hygiene is good sleep practices, like no screens 30 minutes before bed and the room being dark, cool, and silent. Prep is what happens before the hygiene, setting yourself up physically and mentally. So no numbing shortly before bed and perhaps a short session of meditation to quiet your mind. Your route is yours. These are just components. Find ones that groove with you. And number 4, release the oxytocin. Perform activities that help produce oxytocin. Yes, oxytocin, the love drug. Well, hormones, really. It's been found that various activities such as giving to others, dancing, working out, or cuddling with your pet all trigger oxytocin production. Know why we suggest this? Basically because the activities not only make you happy, but many of the activities can help others be happy too. Oxytocin is one of the big 3 happy hormones after all. It's been found too that this hormone can decrease stress and anxiety. So it gives happy and deducts stress and anxiety.
I'm winning here, Kikimora.
And number 5,
Now I'm feeling
know
good
that
about it.
you are worth it. Those old shampoo commercials had a point. You are worth it. Yep, our last tip for today is to practice self-love. Self-love can help you extend compassion towards yourself, allowing you to perform self-care free of guilt or adding more stress. Never feel that tending to your own health is a waste of time or that you could be doing something more important. You are the most important thing to you. Your existence depends on
Hey,
it.
got a retribution.
Burnout can happen to anyone. It does not matter if you're in school or at a job or trying to get your own business going or a mom or a dad. Burnout is a creeper that can pounce when you least expect it, happening to the seemingly healthiest of us. We mean you're not alone or defective or inept. Burnout essentially means that your own personal care has been sacrificed in pursuit of outward rewards, whether that pressure has been put on you by...
I've been seeking single player games to fill the MMORPG hole, and they're not good enough. Dragon's Dogmas 2, they're good games. Dragon Dogma 2, Borderlands 4, Oblivion. I would say even Once Human is kind of a single player game in a lot of ways. There's like a ton of single player games. 7 Days to Die, I've been playing it single player. And it's like, I don't know. I can't seem to find a new home where I can relax and settle down and focus on a game. They're like not making them good enough anymore. Sci Fleet issue. Got some holes here for how little I gambled. I spent like 200 mil or something, I guess, and I got enough ship holes to make my money. It's good. Ooh, Thrasher Fleet issue. I'm doing well here now. Nice. Thrasher Fleet issue. I had good luck with these. I got money there. It's good. Well, that's a chunk of silver ore, which is annoying. So yeah, these need to be repriced, which is annoying. Could play my RDM on FFXI and just fuck around on Eve, I guess. It was weird not to use my GeForce Now. I don't know what I would play. I guess I will go back out.
By yourself or by a boss, take a moment to realize that nothing is worth your health and that you deserve to be happy, no matter how much.
These days, we talk a lot about burnout. But as a psychologist, I recognize that we have a lot of misconceptions when it comes to burnout. We think burnout is any time you're feeling a little bit overworked or a little bit stressed or a little bit tired. But it turns out that burnout is a very special kind of clinical syndrome that has a couple very particular symptoms. One of the symptoms we often think about is a sense of emotional exhaustion. But this is richer than just a sense of physical exhaustion. Emotional exhaustion isn't just about being tired. It's really about feeling like you cannot emotionally handle.
Oh, and Murray got flipped over. $17, $14.
Another thing on your plate. If one thing comes on, that's it. The whole house of cards is going to fall. Even when you get a really great night rest or a week off, you're still feeling kind of emotionally tired and overloaded. That's the first symptom, this sense of emotional.
It's a very deep part of your mind quietly avoiding growing up. And what's the scariest part? A lot of men don't grow out of this in their 20s. They carry it into their 30s, 40s, 50s, even their 60s. On the outside, they still look like adults. But on the inside, there's a very childish part of them that panics every time life asks them to take responsibility. Welcome back to Apex. Today we're going to step into the psychology of the man-child. Before we begin, I need to say this up front. This video may not be easy to hear. It might make you uncomfortable, maybe even hit your ego a little. But if you can stay calm enough to listen until the end, this might be the exact wake-up call you need to truly snap out of it. So what exactly is this childish part? And what form is it hiding inside you? Let's start by dissecting its psychology. The psychoanalyst Carl Jung used a Latin term, puer aeternus, to describe the state. It means the eternal boy. In everyday life, we know it by names like Peter Pan syndrome or the man-child. When you are caught in this syndrome, it does not mean you are unintelligent or incapable. In fact, you are often someone with a lot of ideas and sharp instincts. However, your biggest trait in this state is an extreme desire for absolute freedom. In this state, freedom seems to mean not being tied down by anything, not being responsible for anyone, and not having to make any fixed choices. You want to keep yourself in a place where every door stays open, but you never actually walk through any of them. Carl Jung described your life with a very accurate phrase: the provisional life. Living a provisional life means you always feel like what you are doing right now is not your real life. You work an office job, but you tell yourself it is only a temporary job to make a living, while deep down, you are actually an undiscovered genius waiting for your moment. You live in a messy room, but you think there is no need to clean it because this is only a temporary place, and one day you will have a real home. You date someone, but deep inside you always think this is not the most perfect person for you, and you are only in a temporary relationship. Because you think everything is temporary, you never put your full heart and effort into anything. You live like a spectator sitting in the stands, watching your own life pass by. You watch the people around you throw themselves into life. They work, they fail, they move up, they get married. Your mind looks at them and unconsciously creates the feeling that you are somehow above them. The ego of the child inside you tells itself that they are trapped in the rat race of bills and daily survival, while you are just waiting for a more special path. But the truth is, you choose to be a spectator not because you are free, but because you are using that freedom as a shield. When you do not choose a specific career, you can proudly tell yourself that you have the potential to do anything. When you never truly give your all to any goal, you never have to face the feeling of failure. You keep all your dreams as perfect ideas in your head because a dream that has never been tested has never had the chance to fail. The deepest hidden fear behind your careless attitude is the fear of reality. Everyday reality always comes with harsh rules. Reality has bills to pay, rejection, competition, and flaws. In that safe imaginary world, you are a star. But when you step into reality, you have to accept that you are starting from zero. You have to learn, you have to work, and you have to take responsibility for your mistakes. A part of you would rather cling to a safe provisional life than step onto the field and accept the risk of getting hurt. So where did this chronic procrastination and fear of growing up actually come from? Why do you choose to trap yourself inside the cocoon of childhood instead of stepping out into the world? To answer that, we need to flip back through the pages of the past. Marie-Louise von Franz, a close colleague of Carl Jung, pointed out a surprising truth. Most man-children, when they were young, were actually very gifted kids. Maybe as a child you were the smartest kid in class, someone who learned everything quickly without much effort, or someone with a special talent in a certain area. You received tons of praise from your parents and teachers. You were labeled as a special child, or a future genius. These early compliments accidentally created a dangerous psychological trap. You began to build your entire sense of self-worth around being outstanding and full of great potential. You believed you were different from the rest of the world. However, the tragedy begins when you enter adulthood and have to face real society. In the school of life, potential is no longer something that gets rewarded. The real world only recognizes results and persistence. When you start a new job or a new project, you cannot be great right away. You will make mistakes, you will be rejected, and you will see that there are many other people who are better than you. For someone who grew up believing they were special, these experiences feel like a direct threat to your ego. The feeling that you are not good enough, the feeling of being rejected, hurts deeply. And to protect that wounded ego, your mind activates an automatic defense mechanism. That mechanism is procrastination. You start telling yourself, I have not succeeded only because I have not truly started taking things seriously yet, not because I am not good enough. When you delay applying for jobs, delay writing that book.
Okay, so there's this drunk, and he walks into a bar, a jazz bar, and he's never been in there before. It's all low lighting and cool music. And he walks up to the bar and he proceeds to get absolutely hammered, blind drunk. He's doing shot after shot after shot, and eventually, towards the end of the night, he starts to feel a rumbling in his stomach, and he needs to make a bowel movement. And he calls the barman over and he says, "Excuse me, barman, where's your toilet? Is there a toilet in this place?" And the barman says, "Yeah, okay, it's through this door, down the corridor, take 2 lefts, a right, open the door, you'll find it. And the drunk, he can't keep up with these instructions, so he wanders off down this hallway, bouncing off the walls all the way. He's like, is it 2 lefts and 2 rights? What is it? And he's just opening doors, and eventually he opens this door, and inside, like, is this absolutely beautiful, warm and welcoming golden toilet. And he's like, oh, fantastic, this is the nicest toilet I've ever been in. So he proceeds to undo his trousers and do what he came to do, right? And after he's finished, does up his trousers, off he goes into the night. And he has such a wonderful time in his jazz bar that he decides to return the next night. And then he has one more drink than he has had the previous night, so he's extra drunk. And he calls the barman over and says, where's the toilet? And the barman says, through this door, down the hallway, 2 lefts and a right, open the door, there you are. And off he goes. But this time, because he's extra drunk, he's just bouncing off the walls, he's getting himself all turned around, doesn't know where he is, and he can't find it. And he finds himself back in the bar. And he goes back up to the barman and he says, where is that toilet, that golden toilet? I can't seem to find it. And the barman thinks for a second. He's like, golden toilet? Golden toilet? And then you can see the cogs moving in his head, and eventually he says, golden toilet? Oh. Okay, Dave, I found the guy who shit in your saxophone. It's not a good joke. It's not a good joke. Today we're talking about the different kinds of alcoholism. What kind of alcoholic are you? Brothers, sisters,
joke.
Comrades and friends, welcome to Bat Country.
Backcountry.
If you're here incidentally on the back of my iceberg video, welcome. And I'm afraid that, this is normally what it's like. It's just my big dumb face saying depressing shit to the camera. If you're okay with that, good. Please do like and subscribe. If you're really okay with that, if you would like more of this kind of stuff, then head over to patreon.com/batcountrysober for the kind of backcountry sober community that's over there. Okay, so one of the risks that comes with talking about different categories of alcoholic is that it allows people in my position, people who talk about alcoholism, to kind of gatekeep it a little bit, which is to say, like, you don't qualify as this, or you're this kind of alcoholic, and that kind of thing. Which is why the American Psychiatric Administration, is that what it's called? The APA, who kind of constructs the documentation to help medical professionals treat people like alcoholics. That's why they don't use these categorizations anymore. They used to. They used to have categories like the daily drinker and the social drinker, the anxiety drinker and stuff like that, but they got rid of it all a few years ago. And now they've bundled everything, all kinds of drinking, under the single title of alcohol use disorder, or rather, more specifically, person with alcohol use disorder. And they don't differentiate between the different kinds of drinking, their thinking being that it kind of muddies the water. And if somebody is seeking help for an alcohol problem, then it doesn't really matter the style or the manner in which they drink. But I think that it does matter. And in fact, if you walk into, I don't know, like a really big Alcoholics Anonymous meeting with like 50 people in it or something, then you'll find that they just do tend to, you'll find like 5 or 6 different styles of drinking in that room. If you speak to them all individually, you'll find that some are secret day drinkers, and some are crazy binge drinkers, and some are functioning alcoholics, and some are kind of, and they're all measuring themselves against each other. And I think it is important to make a differentiation between the style of your drinking, because the manner in which you drink has an impact on the consequences of your drinking. You're much more likely, for example, to experience delirium tremens like I did, or have acute withdrawal syndrome if you are drinking extreme amounts of hard liquor really, really quickly than you are of drinking beer every day. Right, so that's one example of how the manner in which you drink really does have an impact. It really does matter. So let's talk about the kinds that there are and what some of the characteristics of each look like. What are the behaviors of each kind of alcoholic? The first one is the young drinker, the kind of social alcoholic who is not yet suffering the consequences of chronic alcoholism, but is nonetheless an alcoholic. Ages vary, everything about these categories varies to some degree or another. But when it comes to young people drinking, the young is quite a broad range. For the sake of putting a number on it, I'm going to call it 16 to 24. If you're 25, don't worry, I'm not calling you old because you don't fit into the young people spectrum. It's just because there are some metabolic changes which will change your relationship with alcohol as you get older. But between 16 and 24, it's very possible to be a serious alcoholic and not yet be aware. At this kind of age, for the largest section of the group, drinking is going to be tied to socializing and to partying. But that's not true of everyone.
I've been doing too much gaming. I've been drinking too much. I've been burnt out and I'm struggling to focus, and that's not good for a stream. All these things I should address, but I don't know. I don't know.
Everybody. Okay, so even at aged 18, I moved out of home, talking about my own experience. I moved out and went off to be a student. And even then, I found myself drinking alone or leaving parties, leaving social events where there was alcohol readily available in order to go home and continue drinking and getting blind drunk on my own. So I'm aware that there is no prototype for this drinker, but it has a couple of different manifestations. One is the kind of person who only drinks socially, but drinks to such wild excess that it should be obvious that there is a problem, because it will have consequences like with the law or with injuries. You're unlikely, not impossible, but it's unlikely that you'll be experiencing liver failure or, pancreatitis or ketoacidosis at this kind of age. It is possible, but more likely the consequences of your drinking are going to be things like academic. If you're a student, you're going to miss study. You're going to miss deadlines. If you're working, then you're going to stop showing up to work. So they're kind of social consequences at this stage, or physical consequences not directly tied to alcoholism. Like, so falling over and breaking your ankle or getting a head injury or into a car crash, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, right, this was true of me.
I live by the Canadian border. Is it possible to work as an Uber driver in Canada if you live in, Washington? Okay.
And I hate talking about this stuff because thinking about my own youth makes me cringe anyway, just because I was a socially awkward, weird person. I still am, which is why I sit in an empty room and speak to strangers. This is more comfortable for me than attending an AA meeting and telling my truth there. I prefer to do it here. But as a young man, I was worse. And drinking heavily at that age,
I'm burnt out on the survival loop. I'm burnt out on the extraction loop. I'm burnt out on free for all PvP. I'm burnt out on this idea that wipes or anything else might affect my shit, Oh no, there's a Vexer here. This system is hot. I saw somebody coming in and it makes me nervous. I'm going to sit here for a few minutes. I might even like log. I might log at a safe spot here for a few minutes and just drop profile until they aren't looking for me anymore. Because it feels paranoid. And I'm burnt out on that. I'm burnt out on feeling paranoid. But Faction Warfare pays so well. If I could get a damn buyer for my LP. We'll do the BSC. I imagine I'm probably good for that.
You tend to think it's opening doors for you with regards to things like sexual opportunity or bonding with social groups, but the truth is,
I want some game like 76 that you play forever and you grind like Diablo, like looter shooter style, sort of. But none of the games are good enough where I just carve through them, and I've seen it all. It's annoying. I don't know. There's like nothing out there like that's that good. Or if it is, I play it. I guess I'll pop in on Rust just to see.
that really you're just kind of suppressing your anxiety and you're doing things that are going to embarrass you. You're going to wake up embarrassed of things you did and said the night before. And really, you're going to carry that embarrassment throughout the rest of your life. I still cringe at some of the things I did and said when I was a young drinker, even though I'm now an old man. I still think about that stuff pretty regularly, and it's still like occasionally I'll be walking down the street at 3 o'clock on a perfectly normal afternoon, and suddenly a memory of something I said when I was 19 will pop back into my brain, and I'll go, oh, ooh, I'll make that.
Is it possible to form an LLC and drive as an Uber driver for that LLC as opposed to yourself? was not rated. Oops. Cargo's there. I wonder if I could manage to board.
That noise, just autonomically. 16 to 24. That's the age when you find your feet. And if you're problematically drinking already at that age, you're cutting your feet out from underneath you. You're supposed to be enjoying it, and alcohol, if you're a problem drinker and you know it early, it's going to be getting in your way already. It's already holding you back. Look, if you're 16 to 24 and the thought has crossed your mind that you might have a problem, you have a problem. Okay? I wish I'd had the fucking common sense, because I had that thought when I was 19. I recognized that my drinking was a problem, but I never really admitted it to myself. So I fell into this group. I was the young adult social alcoholic type. If you're already thinking it's a problem, it's already a problem. So that's number one. That's young social alcoholics. Number two is a very big group. This is people who are self-medicating with alcohol. And it can include people who don't even know that they're self-medicating with alcohol. The self-medicating alcoholic, what does that entail? I'm going to summarize it like this, and I'm going to speak to you directly. If you are drinking to change how you feel, you're self-medicating. Okay, and I understand how broad that definition is, but I am convinced it is accurate. So what does this drinking style look like? This is, for me, the most common kind of alcoholism. And I'm not suggesting everybody who drinks like this is an alcoholic, but I am suggesting every alcoholic has drunk like this. So let me tell you the image that I have of this particular drinker. This is your auntie. Okay, this is your auntie sat on the sofa, 2.5 bottles of wine deep on a Wednesday night. Or it is your uncle who's going through a divorce, who is surrounded by empty beer cans that he's been drinking since he got home from work. It's 11 p.m. and he's already had like 15 on just a normal work night. It's also, it can be anyone. It can be a professional athlete who has suffered an injury and is doesn't know what to do with their time. Or it can be someone who works incredibly long hours and then gets 2 or 3 days off and then just fills that time with drinking just to wouldn't be a Backcountry video if I didn't punch the mic at some point. It is anybody who is drinking to manage stress or anxiety
Oh,
or
no, they're
boredom
leaving.
or loneliness or grief. And this covers a lot of people who haven't yet realized that the alcohol they're drinking night in, night out, even though they're not getting blind drunk, it is getting on top of them. Here's the moment it gets on top of you. If you are a self-medication drinker, it's the moment it is, if you have a 9 to 5 job, it's the moment on Thursday that you're looking forward to a drink on Friday. The moment you say, even if it's just internally, you go, I can't wait for Friday evening so I can have a drink. Big red flag should go up in your brain. Why are you looking forward to that drink so much? What benefit is that drink bringing you? Because my guess would be that you think it's going to prevent you from worrying about the stress and anxiety of your 9 to 5 for a little while. And perhaps, in a sense, it is. But that stress and that anxiety is not going anywhere. It's still there. It's still going to be there on Monday morning, only worse. This one is a dangerous drinking type. Self-medicating with alcohol is incredibly dangerous because it starts as relief and then quickly evolves into
No, there was
dependence.
2 of them. Son of a bitch.
And once it does that,
why was there 2
you
of them?
become
I
a
didn't see
functioning
2 of
alcoholic for a
them.
while, and then you might become a chronic alcoholic. This stuff,
Son of a bitch.
100% of the time, is
there goes
progressive.
that kid.
A lot of us say like that
Fucking annoying.
alcohol is a coping tool. We tend to think of alcohol as a coping mechanism, right? But it's such a shitty coping mechanism. It is better to feel bad.
Ugh.
It is better to feel the full weight of grief or of anxiety,
Like, why build this so you can't land a heli? It's fucking stupid.
of depression
But
than
it's
it
that's
is
the modern developer for you.
to think that you can combat it by drinking. And that's why this kind of insidious, creeping, self-medicating alcoholism is so dangerous. And that's why most of us go through this phase at some point. The sitting on the sofa drinking, the starting to say no to obligations and events because you'd rather be alone or you'd rather drink your problems away rather than go and be sociable and happy. Perhaps the third type to talk about is a phase that comes after self-medication, as I just mentioned, and that is functioning alcoholism, or if you want to feel extra fancy, high-functioning alcoholism. I've devoted too much time and bandwidth in the past to talking about how much I hate the phrase functioning alcoholism, but I found myself using it more and more, so just it does have some utility as a phrase, so let's just use it for now until I can find a better way to convince everybody to stop saying it. But what functioning alcoholism often looks like is a person who holds down a job or holds down a career and a family and is able to navigate their responsibilities without imploding all the time and without ending up in cuffs or in the hospital. And from the outside, they might even look successful. There are a number of people who navigate alcoholism, active addiction, even while they're outwardly succeeding. Michael Phelps is a good example, who was seeking alcohol treatment even while he was winning gold medals. But the reason Michael Phelps was seeking treatment is because even for elite level, high-functioning alcoholics, there is a limit and it falls apart eventually for everybody. Otherwise, he wouldn't have ever needed to seek treatment, right? So even for functioning alcoholics, there is a limit to how long you will function. And let's not forget that the important part of the phrase functioning alcoholic is not the word functioning, it is the word alcoholic. So whenever anybody tells me they are a functioning alcoholic, which does happen from time to time, it's the most insensitive, stupid thing to say to a recovering alcoholic I can possibly imagine. But people have said it to me, to my face. I just hear alcoholic. I don't hear them say, I am a functioning alcoholic. I hear, I am an alcoholic. I just haven't yet bottomed out or sought treatment. So, fuck off. with your functioning alcoholism. As far as their drinking is concerned, they do have a different drinking pattern from self-medicators or from chronic alcoholics. They tend to be drinking smaller amounts more often. Okay, so I kind of went through this period myself where I was drinking a shooter of vodka in the morning, going to work as a senior executive, and then across lunch, I would drink 3 more shooters of vodka, and then I would drink heavily in the evening. And very few people ever saw me really drunk. Very few people would know that I was drinking the quantities that I was back then. But it can't last forever. You can't maintain that kind of balance forever, because alcoholism is a progressive condition, and you will start drinking more and more to maintain your homeostasis. And that will mean eventually leading something of a double life, where you are actively trying to conceal your drinking from the people around you in order to maintain your outward appearance of success and functioning. So a good way to tell whether you're kind of crossing that threshold into functioning alcoholism, or whether you're already there, is to consider how much time you spend convincing yourself that you're okay. Because I remember this took up a huge amount of my own bandwidth, was rationalization. Telling myself that because I hadn't lost everything, because I was able to afford my expensive apartment in Zagreb, and because I hadn't been fired, or because I was still making good decisions professionally, that I must be okay. And negotiating with myself about when it was okay to be really drunk versus...
I don't think I'm this bad. I don't think I've ever been this bad. Maybe that's self-denial, I don't know.
You think of the 1970s and you think flower power and disco. You probably don't think of skinhead gangs. Like, you're probably not dressing up in tiny little braces and combat boots to go to your workplace's decade's Christmas party. But skinhead gangs were really popular. The National Front is a fascist political party in the UK that was founded in 1966. Not to be confused with Le Front National, which is a totally different party in France that makes it really hard to Google the British one. And in the 1970s, it was huge. In the 1977 elections, over 200,000 people voted for National Front candidates, and over half those voters were here in London. A survey from 1978 found that 1 in 7 young people were willing to support the National Front. And in the 1979 election, they fielded 303 candidates, enough that by law they had to be allowed to run party political broadcasts on national television. Alongside the more respectable kind of politics, they were also doing the skinhead kind, purposefully going into areas that have a lot of immigrants in order to terrify them. That's like fascists' favourite thing to do, because they've not got anything else going for them. In London, the flashpoints in the 70s were Brick Lane and Savile, both of which had a lot of Asian immigrants. The NF had a stall at Brick Lane Market where you could buy their merch. including a Holocaust-denying pamphlet called Did 6 Million Really Die? In the summer of 1979, several left-wing targets were bombed, including a socialist bus driver, a milkman, the Communist Party headquarters, and the left-wing bookshop Houseman's. The NF and fascist skinheads would regularly hold marches in Asian neighbourhoods, not because they had a lot of supporters there, but to scare the locals. But today, look, I won't say that the National Front isn't technically still going, but their Wikipedia page has a section called Further Decline 1990 to Present, and their website is a WordPress blog that still has a sample page on it. Oh my god! You can very easily live your whole life in the UK without realising that these guys are technically still keeping the lights on. They've been completely defeated at the ballot box. They've never had a member get to Parliament. And on the very rare occasion that one of them gets on a local parish council, they get booted off because they don't dare show their faces at actual meetings. So, fascists have been beaten before, and without a world war. In this video, I'm going to tell you how it was done. As always, this is a London channel, so I'm not going to be covering what was going on in Brighton or Bradford, but I do encourage you to make your own video about your town's history. If you'd like to disagree with me about something, you are welcome to do so in the comments, but you will have to provide a source. I will be putting my sources up here in the corner. So, how do you defeat fascists?
Decency. Treating each other with respect and love. Shaming it. Not breeding with it or platforming it.
I suppose the first thing I have to do is prove that the NF are fascists, don't I? Like most modern far-right groups, the NF didn't claim to be Nazis. And part of your job, if you want to oppose them, is making that label stick. Now, I can tell they're Nazis because of the things they say and believe. But if you need more obvious proof, then this is their first chairman, A.K. Chesterton, who was a member of the British Union of Fascists. So there we go. But if you want a bit more, by the mid-70s, their chairman is this guy, John Tyndall, who was formerly a member of the National Socialist movement. Remember, Nazi is short for National Socialist, which he founded on Hitler's birthday. After that, he founded another far-right group called the Great Britain Movement, which he said would advocate for pure National Socialism and not deviate from certain tenets fundamental to the Hitler faith. Here's a picture of him in what is not a Nazi brown shirts uniform. That's the uniform for his brown shirt play acting group called Spearhead, which I'm sure just looks like that as a coincidence. Here's another one, and another one. Go on, one more. They had a photographer at their Nazi meetup. John Tyndall really wanted you to know that he loved the Nazis. If you don't think he was a Nazi, he'd probably be mad at you. But with the National Front, he wanted it to be less explicitly Nazi in order to lure in people who were simply very racist and turn them into fascists. The English far right is actually quite a diverse bunch. I mean, politically, not ethnically. It's hard to get English nationalists who love World War II in the same bed as Nazi cosplayers. But by the beginning of the 1970s, the founders of the National Front realised that they could unite a lot of far-right groups if they concentrated on something they all agree on. They hate immigrants.
Ugh.
Activist Darcus Howe said, "There emerged in this society a cluster of political groups whose one linkage between themselves was that they wanted blacks out of this country." Something that we're going to have to know for this video is that in the 1970s, people used the word black when these days we'd say black and Asian. These days, major political parties actively court voters who hate immigrants. But in the 70s, that isn't really the case. In 1968, British politician Enoch Powell had delivered what is now commonly known as the Rivers of Blood speech. where he argued that because of immigration from non-white countries and because of the first anti-discrimination laws, in 15 or 20 years' time, the black man will have the whip hand over the white man. And that, as I look ahead, I am filled with foreboding. Like the Roman, I seem to see the river Tiber foaming with much blood. Afterwards...
There, I can stand to play this game for whatever reason, just because it feels like there's like content I haven't seen. Things I haven't learned. I think... I blew a hole in that shed. Another burning shaft mod. Oh cool! Oh cool! The wrench. Yeah, the wrench can do a burning shaft mod. That's cool. I didn't know that. Oh.
Conservative Party fired him.
I like this lady a lot. What's her name? Jay Draper. She's actually super fucking good.
From his shadow cabinet position. And the Tory leader, Edward Heath, called his speech racialist, which is the 1960s word for racist. So, if you agree with Enoch Powell, then the Tory party is clearly saying, you're not welcome here. At the same time, a lot of Asian people are arriving in the UK, including from East Africa. When both places were part of the British Empire in the 1890s, workers from the Indian subcontinent were imported to Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania to build railways. After these African countries became independent, some of them wanted the Asians out. In 1968, Jomo Kenyatta in Kenya announced that Asians would never get Kenyan citizenship. After Idi Amin conquered Uganda in 1971, he announced that Asians with British passports would be expelled. Tens of thousands of Asians fled to the UK. This is actually when former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's parents came here. The Conservatives set up something called the Uganda Resettlement Board to help families find people to stay with. So if you don't like immigrants, you're looking at the Tory party and thinking, I don't want to support those guys, but I can't be a filthy lefty. So your only options are to A, be racist, or B, find another political home. In the span of less than a year, National Front membership rose by more than 50%. In some constituencies, they start off in double digits. On the 11th of June 1978, 150 white youths ran down Brick Lane shouting, "Kill the black bastards," and smashing the windows of a dozen shops and the car windscreens of Bengali shopkeepers. 55-year-old Abdul Manan was knocked unconscious by a hail of rocks and stones hurled through his shop window. He ended up in hospital where he needed 5 stitches in his face. He lost 2 of his teeth. The police said that the spontaneous outbreak happened just at the time they were changing shift, and that they were totally unprepared for it. This wasn't an isolated incident. Over 100 such instances were collected in East London alone between 1976 and 1978. So, anti-fascists have to organise. Some of the earliest groups to recognise the threat posed by the NF were Jewish groups, like the Board of Deputies of British Jews, who collected discrediting information on the NF's political candidates and sent it to the media and rival parties. This is one strategy that really works, outing the Nazis. Once you've found one, a lot of the regular racists won't want to be seen standing next to him, so you can cause them to split. After these photos started coming out, a former NF chairman went on national primetime TV to accuse John Tyndall of being a neo-Nazi. And within a month, they'd voted him out, and the NF lost thousands of members who went off to form a splinter group. One anonymous former NF member said that she left after seeing a picture of John Tyndall wearing a swastika. I won't stand for any of this Sieg Heil nonsense. You don't even have to argue against their policies. You can just be like, sounds like what a fascist would say. There is a problem with this strategy, though. If you spend all your time focusing on who's a secret Nazi, then you're not prepared if someone comes along who has all the NF's policies, but is smart enough to have never been photographed standing in front of a swastika. In the 1970s, it was a really successful strategy, and it's apparently faster than trying to convince people that racism is bad, but it doesn't address the fact that what the NF wanted was to hurt Black and Asian people. So it is a useful life skill to be able to tell when someone's a fascist, even when they're not wearing a swastika. So, very quickly,
a fascist acts as if your nation is the most important thing about you, and they believe that their nation used to be great, but outsiders, usually communists, Jews, immigrants and the gays, have humiliated it, and one day they will purge the outsiders and their nation will rise again.
And alone, this strategy of outing Nazis isn't enough. 100,000 people voted for the NF in the 1974 general election. Between 1975 and 1977, assaults, robberies and violent thefts committed against Black and Asian British people rose by a third. And in May 1976, another group of East African Asians arrives, this time from Malawi. The press go hysterical about it, claiming they were being put up in 4-star hotels at the taxpayers' expense. The Sun published the headline, "Scandal of £600 a week immigrant." The Mirror, "New flood of Asians to Britain." On the Telegraph, "Invasion of Asians forces Borough to call for help." The NF gets 3,000 new members. On the 4th of June 1976, Gurdeep Singh Chaggar was fatally stabbed in the strongly Asian area of Southall.
Every time they platform Nazis in almost any, and like, I watched this thing about, my mom didn't understand what I was talking about, but I was like, no, the modern right-wing, alt-right pipeline of Proud Boys and Nazis in America, that all stems from an Oprah show. And she was like, that's bullshit, it's crazy. And I'm like, no, Oprah brought on a bunch of crazy Nazis, like 8 guys or something like that, and she just platformed them, and their message leaked out to all of America, and within 20 years, we had like 100,000 Nazis or something. And it wasn't like that. It was like a small cell of, a few people here and there in the major cities. It maybe comprised like 2,000 or 3,000 people in the country or something. The minute Oprah fucking platformed those fucking Nazis, it ballooned to like 100,000 people or something like that. And that's why we have the Proud Boys and the KKK in the South and all that shit. Some of it's old, like KKK stuff from the South, but a lot of it is that fucking episode trying to depict Nazis as counterculture. It's just like how some people will go gothic even though it's not really in their nature. Some people will go hip hopper even though it's not in their nature, or metalhead when it's not in their nature. That was my problem when I first did metal. I was like, but I'm kind of a peacenik loving, 60s music loving, kind of like, psychedelic folk guy. And this angry music, I can't do it all the time. But then eventually I could, because I was just an angry guy. But but I wasn't really a metalhead when I first started. I wasn't that angry, And that's my thing. I think the minute that Oprah portrayed Nazis as some kind of counterculture movement, it got popular, kind of like mods or punkers or bikers or gangs or anything like that. Like, it's just another movement that some people can be a member of. It took over the prisons as kind of like kind of a faction. It's a thing, and I swear to God, if we didn't platform these Donald Trump, Trumplican fucking Nazi traitors and stuff, it wouldn't be that bad of a fucking problem, because America is inherently lazy and will not go out of its way to learn anything. So, but if you put Nazis on Oprah, you're gonna get little kids that want to be a Nazi.
Suresh Grover was
Some of them like even quote that show as being formative for them, and seeing that there was other shitheads like them in the country.
walking down the high street hours later when he saw a pool of Chagar's blood on the floor. He asked a nearby police officer what had happened and was told it was just an angel.
God damn it, I've reloaded this gun
Grover
so many
covered the blood
fucking
with a
times.
cloth
Don't
and put
lie.
bricks around it so that no one would
Don't
see.
lie, motherfucker. I
The day
reloaded
after
this gun so
Chagar's
many
death,
times.
Thousands blocked the street
Asshole piece
and
of
marched to
shit
the police
devs.
station demanding justice. The police arrested 2 of the protesters. They were released later that day after a sit-in protest. In the aftermath, young local Asians formed the Southall Youth Movement, which has been called a turning point for Asians in the whole country. One of their founding members, Balraj Purwal, says that their job was to make Southall a no-go zone for racists. We would know which pubs they're meeting in. I remember going to one in Alworth. They used to meet there and plan which estate to attack. There used to be 80 to 90 of them.
It's not like gangs of Paki came and we ran away. On the contrary, on more occasions than one, we got tired of running away. My name is Tariq Mahmood. I grew up in England in the 1970s.
What was that?
And grew up in a wave of racist violence on the street. I have lost count on a number of occasions where
I think we watched this once before, but I think it's so good I came back to it again. Sounds like a dog's about to come upstairs or something. What the fuck is that sound? Oh god. It was a dog. Oops. What I meant to do, I meant to look for the meds. There's the boxes in this place. $10. Oops. Where are the boxes in this? There you are. I like the combat in the The sandbox mode. I think it's actually, or sorry, yeah, like in the sandbox options. Power attacks to have 20% chance to ragdoll enemies, and that's like sledgehammers. This is Pistol Pete. Inflict 10% more damage with 9mm weapons. That's a really good book for me. That's fucking sweet. I will have to go to the bathroom. I will safe up. These guys are probably in the moderate, I would say. Let's warp fleet to point and find out. Maybe I should start taking mobile depots. Or sorry, mobile tractor units. I'll send one in. Oh, God. Never mind. Go, go. Warp. Never mind, these guys have this sewn up. Maybe I don't have to go to the restroom. It's nice. Just had an upset stomach there for a second. Urban combat. Sneaking over trash makes no sound. Never encumbered at night. Do 10% more damage to vultures. What's in there? Some vent. Oh no. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, that was terrible.
I myself alone was attacked and beaten. Yeah, sometimes you had gangs of racist white youth who themselves would think they were really anti-Nazi because their fathers or grandfathers had fought in the war against Nazi Germany. Yet after the pubs closed, they would just as equally go on what they used to be called packy hunting or packy bashing. This meant that in some areas, not everywhere, but in some areas, young white men, and sometimes with women as well, they would go out and hunt us down, beat us up. That was happening in East London, in South London, in Chorley, in Bradford, in Birmingham, and lots of different areas. We needed to protect our houses. The police couldn't do it. There were firebombs going on. As you know, if you look into London's history, not one but more massacres, like the New Cross massacre would take place a few years later. But the local youth of East London were really quite remarkable. We would have a few hundred of them. They would be at the bottom end of Brick Lane when the races came. Hunt, you know, real physical hunt. There's a gang coming along commercial roles.
This is another tactic that
Screamer.
worked, disrupting their meetings and marches. Every time the NF tried to hold a public meeting, anti-fascists would be there. And groups like the Southall Youth Movement tried to bust up the private ones too. If enough people are shouting, they can't get anything done. In 1979, the NF were trying to have a meeting in West Bromwich that kept getting interrupted by hecklers. Their stewards tried to evict the hecklers, but eventually the police simply cleared the hall and the meeting had to be abandoned. And you can do this non-violently by blocking the road or camping outside their meeting halls. That does do some good. It makes them ashamed to show their faces, so not as many turn up. Or it might mean that they have to change plans at the last minute. On the 7th of September 1974, the NF planned a march to Hyde Park, but 7,000 counter-protesters blocked the route. So the police had to reroute the fascists to Lincoln's Inn Fields, which is quite a long way away. But violent counter-protest, throwing bottles or keeping them out by force, that also works in a second way. If the police think there's going to be violence at an NF march, then the simplest way for them to stop the violence is to ask the Home Secretary to ban the march. In 1977, the government banned a march in Manchester and placed a 2-month ban on NF marches in London. This protects the local neighbourhoods that the NF is marching through, although, of course, the dangers of this one are pretty obvious. On the 13th of August 1977, the NF held a march at Clifton Rise in Lewisham. The Home Secretary refused to ban it from going ahead, so instead, a quarter of the Metropolitan Police was deployed to Lewisham and issued with riot shields to protect the fascists. 3,000 to 5,000 anti-fascists turned up, against just 500 or 600 NF marchers. Fighting broke out between anti-fascists and police, and 214 anti-fascists were arrested, twice the number arrested at the
Hi,
Battle of
kitty. You
Cable.
come to sit on my lap? Hi. Beautiful kitty. Did you have a good nap? I think you did. Yeah, did you sleep good? That's your normal time to sleep, huh? Yeah, you're such a scheduled kitty. You have a schedule. You're a cat, but you have complete schedules to your day, down to the minute almost. It's funny. Like right after she has her afternoon nap, around 2:10 to about 2:50 in the afternoon, she'll come and she'll sit on my lap and she'll just be like, "Hi, I had a good nap and I'm rested and I'm not feeling like going out yet." And she'll just come and sit in my lap, and then at about 4 o'clock she goes outside. Yeah, she has a whole schedule, and I've learned it. It's cute. Little kitty schedule. Here's a stun baton. Do an extra 50% sneak damage to sleeping victims at night. Sounds good. Beautiful kitty. Yeah, you just are. You're just my beautiful kitty. I'm sorry I yelled at you for peeing on the floor again. Hey, your antibiotics come on Monday. We were able to get $25 antibiotics through Chewy. Oh, my beautiful kitty. You enjoying sitting on my lap? Mm-hmm. You belong in my lap, kitty. Yeah. You're a real good kitty. Mm-hmm. I really think you are. Yeah. Oh, purr, 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 purr. Yeah, you smell burgers, huh? Yeah, I had burgers for lunch. Yeah. I don't also do that, but it was fun. There'll see you. He burnt. Get your head out of there. What are you doing, kitty? Get your head out of there. There's nothing in there for you. Curiosity killed the cat, kitty. Get your little nose out of there. They will drink your poop. Okay. I don't know. I don't think I like the scope. Even the 8x scope. Like, I don't know. The 8x scope is nice. Because you can zoom in. I might rock two rifles, just one with and one without a scope. Oh, damn it. I swear to God I reloaded. What? Cool. I like combining items. That makes it much better. Hi, kitty. You cute little kitty. I'm sitting on my lap. Structural brace mod. And the fittings mod. Oh, my beautiful kitty. I love her so much. I love my kitty. Let's get rubbery head. Feel good, kitty? Yeah, rub your ears a little bit. Rub your ears a little bit. I will switch to rust. I wanted to go on Rust and look for zombie servers. I was thinking maybe I could move to Kranesh on Mortal, because no one will be there, and it'll be like having a town to myself. I could just build a house there right by the zombie spawns. And it's not a very far journey from where my main is. I could always journey to Fab if I wanted to kill like bandits or something. This guy's buying orbs for 170k for 60 seals. Tempted to take him up on it because the money would be good. It would be nice money towards buying a peacock charm. Oh, my beautiful kitty. Appears that, I don't know, actually, I am looking for a different server right now. Rusty Spoon US PvE 5X has 138 players. And then there's PvE warning, there are zombies. Zombieland 3X PvE. That's a bi-weekly. Let's go see. Let's go see what the zombie ratio is on this server. I'm addicted to zombie gameplay. Oh, my beautiful kitty. I love my beautiful, beautiful kitty. Mm-hmm. I noticed that when you sit in my lap, I pet you more. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go see what the ratio of zombies is. Wow, the map is big and it's weird. Oh, it's a PvE server, huh? Oh, I love my kitty. I love her. Server's running better. No, they said there were zombie hordes, but I don't really believe them. As you can see, we've already traveled like 5 blocks and there's no zombies. But we'll see. What the hell is that? See, there's not enough zombies here. There's like no zombies on the fucking map at all. Go buy axes and dial for this Rua Gamel. Gonna buy calamine. And I want to buy the magic vendor. Buy calamine. And I need to go get water. Oh, and also buy pig stuff. Oh, I should go get a saddle for this Dalmal. Do I have leather? Oh, I have to make these. Wait, so if I... Wait, those all sold? Yeah, they
Excuse
did.
me, what are your wizard robes called? They're quite appealing. I feel like I could only play a set of them robes. Woo a lady into my business. You appear to be old and evil. Does anyone here understand sign language? Oh my goodness, it's a Thursar.
Damn it, I can't find the crafting. So annoying.
And pick up the hunter task anyways from there. And then maybe I can prep those ones, get them ready, and then, yeah, sure. Just let me run, give me 5-10 minutes and I'll meet you at the, what is it, West Gate? And just gonna go get myself a little bit.
I don't trust anyone else but Houdini's leader.
Yeah.
Especially all Carney's fucks.
But I can. They're right there. Yes, I can. I can't afford to pay the taxes for this. Are you sure? It was because my goal was split. So stupid. Or I didn't have silver. No, that tree's chopped. Okay, I'm chopping trees on mortal. I'm going to raise money to buy a house, and I'm going to put a house out there by bandits.
Street, which is a similar anti-fascist battle from the 1930s that I did a video.
My name's Matt Kennard. I'm an investigative journalist. My new book is Irregular Army: How the US Military Recruited Neo-Nazis, Gang Members and Criminals. Over the War on Terror, the US military could no longer recruit or retain enough soldiers, so they changed regulations in a way I think is unprecedented in US military history. Around 2007 and 8, the US military were really in a quagmire in Iraq. There was a civil war, and they should have done what happened during Vietnam, which was the draft. But the Bush administration knew that the war in Iraq was so unpopular, they couldn't do that because it would be the straw that broke the camel's back and they'd see resistance. So in the absence of being able to do the draft, what they did was loosen regulations on a whole variety of different groups. Now, some of that was public. They raised the enlistment age from 35 to 42. They raised the standards for body weight. Many, many different elements were enfranchised. But what I looked into and investigated for the book was what they were doing more secretively. Primarily, that focused on neo-Nazis and white supremacists. So in the United States, you can can actually call up neo-Nazi groups. They have websites. So I rang them up and said, how are your members doing in the US military? And all of them said, we've never had it so good. Our members can get in with swastikas, they can get in with SS bolts. After that initial revelation, I thought, well, this is a big story, and one that really contradicts the fairy tale narrative of the war on terror, which was that Britain and America were taking freedom and democracy to Iraq, because you don't take freedom and democracy using neo-Nazis and white supremacists.
No more DEI, no more dudes in dresses, no more climate change worship or social justice or political correctness. We're done with all of that.
I started interviewing veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan who were neo-Nazis. One of them, Forrest Fogarty, who I went to meet in Tampa, Florida, told me that his commanders not only knew that he was a neo-Nazi, but told him that he liked the fact he was a neo-Nazi because he was a better warrior, and he'd send him on the hardest missions. And I heard this again and again and again. You don't need to be too much of a genius to work out what happens if you hand white supremacists an M4 and an M16 rifle and send them to a country full of brown people where there is basically legal impunity. But the other more scary part now for Americans is all these people are now back home in the US, and they didn't go to Iraq or Afghanistan because they believed in the stated mission of those wars. They went there because they said this to me, we wanted to get training in weapons courtesy of the US taxpayer. So they have that, and now they're back in the United States. And in all, we're talking about millions of veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan. This is a huge, huge problem that will play out in America over the coming decades.
Ugh.
A good window
I knew
into
this, but it sucks.
what might happen is Timothy McVeigh, who before 9/11 had committed the worst domestic terrorism attack in US history in 1995 in Oklahoma City. Timothy McVeigh, a white supremacist, was a veteran of the first Gulf War. So you'll talk about many, many people with the same kind of ideology as him who have been trained by the US military, who are now back in the United States. And I would say that they are a ticking time bomb, really, that we're waiting for a mass casualty attack. And in fact, in the book, I chart some of the more recent plots that have been hatched, not just by white supremacists and neo-Nazi veterans, but also active duty, so people serving in the US military currently. And luckily, up till now, the FBI has busted most of those big plots. But all it takes is one of those investigations to go wrong, or they don't know about a certain cell, and then you're talking about hundreds of Americans dead. So many of the people that are guilty of this policy, and it was primarily done during the Bush administration, but it was carried on by Obama, none of them have faced any consequences for this action. And this is a policy which will play out in America for decades. None of them have had any kind of accountability for the crimes that were committed in Iraq and Afghanistan because of this policy.
I call upon all nations to do everything they can to stop these terrorist killers.
This is not a topic that's talked about much because the war on terror was a bipartisan failure and catastrophe and crime. It wasn't just the Republicans, they were backed by the Democrats. So within Washington, many people don't want to talk about the war on terror anymore. But I think it's one of the big explanatory factors to explain the rise of Trump as well, because Trump pounced on unrest with the war on terror and criticism of the war on terror. If you look at his pitch when he initially got elected, and actually when he got elected for the second time, he said, we're not going to do any of this nation building anymore. We're not going to go abroad and spend American money on regime change and things like that. We now know that's complete rubbish, but he had a huge base that were enthused by that kind of rhetoric. And that was because they'd seen 20 years of the war on terror when America had been spending trillions of dollars occupying Iraq and Afghanistan and bombing countless other places in the Middle East.
The lovely country of Iran. It's a beautiful place. Would anybody like to go there?
I think the consequences also relate to the rise of fascism.
I would go to Iran.
Because if you look at the rise of fascism the first time round in the early 20th century, it principally happened in Italy in 1919 when Mussolini created his fascist movement.
I'm sure it's dangerous.
Now, all his
for a
shock
white
troops
man,
pretty much were veterans of the First World War. And they similarly were disenfranchised by the war. They were alienated from the society. They were angry that Italy hadn't made the territorial gains that they were promised, even though they were on the winning side in World War I. And he used that kind of disaffection and those veterans to be the base of his shock troops, the black shirts, which went to war with the left. They smashed up trade union offices. They smashed up left-wing newspapers. And then it spread to Germany, which was another case. A lot of Hitler's rights can be put down to the First World War, not just the Treaty of Versailles, which most people know about, which was when a highly punitive agreement was made at the end of World War I, which really strangled Germany. And Hitler's pitch was that we were humiliated by the winning powers. But also the same thing, many disaffected troops, alienated troops that formed the base of his Nazi party. So if you look at Trump, something similar happened. He used the war on terror, and he used the disaffection with the war on terror to really launch what I believe is, if not a fascist movement, one on its way to being a fascist movement. And it's arguable it already is. Also, understand that it's not just the neo-Nazis, gang members and criminals who were enfranchised. It was also the poor treatment of American soldiers which has put America at risk. So at one point, 20% of American soldiers were said to have PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, in normal times, they would have been discharged or treated. But because they couldn't recruit or retain enough soldiers, they stopped treating them. They stopped diagnosing them. And when they did treat them, they didn't give them the therapy they needed or more expensive long-term treatment. They plied them with prescription drugs. And that ruined the minds of many American soldiers. I guess at the effects that had on the occupied populations, but many of those people are now back in the United States. And that's a toxic mix when you're talking about extremism, PTSD, gangs, criminals. It's a medley that is really sure to explode.
I saw so many veterans, my hand will never be the same.
I wanted to find out if the neo-Nazis and white supremacists I was interviewing were telling the truth, because there is a certain amount of bravado amongst veterans that needs to be checked. So I rang recruitment offices across the United States, covered up for the fact I'm British by saying I'd married an American, and said I wanted to join the US military. I said, can I come in and have a meeting? The only problem is I've got a swastika on my arm. Now, none of them said that would be a bar to enlistment. Most said, that's fine. Others said,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is.
Like, I'm not sure what that is.
So then I realized that this was a policy that was coming down from the brass and the Pentagon itself.
Yeah.
That the regulations that are in place, for obvious reasons, weren't being enforced, and the recruiters weren't being trained in what to spot, because tattoos is the best way you can spot someone's extremism, because most people don't go into a recruitment office and say, I'm a neo-Nazi, because they know they're going to get barred. And then I was talking to investigators themselves who were telling me, well, we've seen cases of neo-Nazis and alerted their commanders of their units to it, and they've done nothing. In fact, they've tried to actually persecute the people that were blowing the whistle on this problem. This is another facet of the US military that you start to understand, is that when things go wrong, they always blame it on the individual soldier, because they want to take the attention away from the brass itself and the commanders and the political leaders. But actually, this was a policy that was coming right from the top. None of them have faced any kind of accountability for it. And if you look at local newspapers in the United States, which I do, you see that a lot of violence being perpetrated in the US at a low level is linked to the veteran community, and actually linked to the active duty community as well. So around bases, there's murders, there's drug trafficking, there's criminal activity. And often if you read these reports, you'll see further down the report
had
that
no
they'll
idea.
say this person was a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, or they're actually serving on the base. The problem now,
Is there a way to auto balance the sound perfectly on YouTube videos? Because some are loud, some are soft.
now is that this problem has been institutionalized. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, who was previously the Secretary of Defense but changed the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War, which is more honest, I'll give him credit for that. He is the embodiment of this problem. During the War on Terror, when I was investigating these soldiers, I was trying to find evidence to alert people in positions of power to what was going on. Now he proudly displays far-right and white nationalist tattoos on his arm. He's got a Jerusalem cross, which is a neo-Crusader imagery. He's got Deus Vult, which means God wills it in Latin, which is another piece of Crusader imagery. He's got Kafir written in Arabic on his arm, which is his signal that he sees Islam as a civilizational threat. So these are all things that in normal times you wouldn't even be able to get into the US military with, but he's the most powerful person in the Pentagon, which is crazy situation. Also in 2021, it's reported that he wasn't even allowed to serve during Joe Biden's inauguration because one of his fellow soldiers alerted his superiors to his extremist tattoos. So you've got this guy at the head of the most powerful military in human history. And in Congress, when he was being confirmed, he said, we're no longer going to focus on extremism because it's a political witch hunt. So that was an invitation to neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other extremists to enter the US military. He also said, we're no longer going to deal with these, quote, stupid rules of engagement, which is a signal to the hundreds of thousands of soldiers serving under him that they can commit war crimes with impunity. So we're in a very, very scary situation where the complete deregulation of the US military, the complete discarding of regulations has now become institutionalized, and the extremists are at the wheel. We're talking about a country, the US, which spends as much on its military as the next 10 countries combined. It has 800 military bases around the world. It has 11 carrier battle groups, which can go anywhere at any time. This is a force that has not had any kind of precedent in history. And when it's ruled by someone like Pete Hegseth, that is a worry for every single human being on the planet.
We see ourselves as part of this negotiation as well. We negotiate with bombs.
Pete Hegseth subscribes to this end times idea that there'll be a huge conflagration in the Middle East, which will end with Jesus Christ returning to earth and rapturing up to heaven all the Christian believers, including Hegseth. So when you have someone like that in power, it is extremely, extremely worrying and actually is guiding policy. It's not silly or conspiratorial to think that these ideas were a large part behind the war in Iran, alongside obviously doing what Israel says. What's not ever made is the connection with the war on terror, where this kind of free-for-all was allowed to take off. And Hegseth is actually the perfect embodiment of that period. So when Democrats and Republicans try to wring their hands of Trump and his administration, we should actually say to them, no, you create the conditions for this monster. And we need to now work out how we stop this juggernaut, because it's unclear if Trump and his coterie will hand over power to bring it back to fascist Germany again. They used the Reichstag fire in 1933 to pass the enabling laws, which basically got rid of German democracy and instituted a dictatorship. I think we're one large-scale terrorist attack away from that possibly happening in the United States as well. This is a situation that we haven't been in my lifetime, and the whole world needs to work out how we try and stop.
So my cat's having a dream, and she's like twitching and fighting and running in her sleep. And so all the time I feel little muscle tenses as she tries to run in her dream. And it's actually so cute.
Stop this juggernaut. On the UK side, I think that the movement needs to build to evict and kick out the US military presence in this country.
Yep. You
because
can feel
we have
her
13
paws
US
going
military bases,
as she
over
kills
12,000
something.
troops, plus an unknown number of special forces that are permanently based here. Zach Polanski of the Green Party is the first mainstream politician who's come out and said we should tell them to leave. And we should tell them to leave because we don't want to be hitched to this brutal empire. We don't want to be hitched to these politicians like Pete.
Wait, Zach?
Plus an unknown number of special forces that are permanently based here. Zach Polanski of the Green Party is the first mainstream.
Zach Polanski of the Green Party.
To be hitched to these politicians like Pete Hegseth, and all the troops in the UK are under the control of Pete Hegseth, and all the troops in the UK are under the
How much are we spending every year on debt interest?
Well, we don't need to, do we?
I'm just trying to work out how good you are on the numbers. How much are we spending every year on debt interest?
But so actually, of all people, Richard Tice has been saying the same thing. During COVID, we gave loans to the Bank of England.
You can't give me a rough figure on how much we're spending on debt interest every year?
Well, there's £70 billion that we owe to the Bank of England, but we don't actually owe that money.
You mean the debt or
mainstream politician who's come out and said we should tell them to leave, and we should tell them to leave because we don't want to be hitched to this brutal empire. We don't want to be hitched to these politicians like Pete Hegseth, and all the troops in the UK are under the control of Pete Hegseth, and all the troops in the UK are under the control of Donald Trump, and that should scare people, and I think is scaring people. And this is an issue I've been working on for many, many years, and no one's really been that interested. But now the reality of it, when you see what's happening in the White House and who's there, is really changing it. So I think our focus as British people should be trying to extricate ourselves from this military system. It's not impossible to do. In 1966, President Charles de Gaulle in France kicked out all US troops and they've never returned. It's definitely something we can do and we should be focused on. And it's what we can do to stop our complicity, because our sites and our bases around the world are key to the US military system. Just one example was recently in Iran when Keir Starmer initially refused to allow UK bases to be used to attack Iran, but then reversed course and allowed RAF Fairford in Gloucestershire to be used to attack Iran. Now, why was it so important that he allowed that base? Because that's the only forward operating location in Europe that the US has, which means they can send heavy bombers. And images came out soon after of bombs being loaded on to those heavy bombers to go and smash up Iran. We also allowed the US to bomb Iran via Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, which is one of our overseas territories. It shows how important the UK remnants of empire is to the US empire and the US military.
He said we can't use the island to land. That was the first.
Regulations on neo-Nazis, criminals, gang members are in place for a reason. It's quite obvious what will happen if you allow these groups to sign up. And the reason they allowed them to sign up was not ideological. The Bush administration, I don't think they cared that neo-Nazis, but the reason was that they couldn't recruit enough soldiers. They didn't think about the consequences, mainly because the consequences are being played out now when they're not in power and that they don't have to answer for it. Obviously, the populations of Iraq and Afghanistan, they knew about it. And in fact, there was one very famous massacre in Iraq in 2006 called the Mahmoudiya massacre, where a group of American soldiers went to a house near the checkpoint they'd been working on, separated the 14-year-old girl in the house from her family, went into the room where the family were, killed them all, then went into the room where the 14-year-old girl was and raped her and then burnt down the house. They told the US military that was the work of insurgents, which I saw again and again and again, that the US military would accept that explanation and did accept it, and they did that again and again because it meant they didn't have to deal with the fact that their soldiers were committing massacres. But actually, in the end, a soldier in that platoon had a crisis of conscience and told the superiors what happened, and it came out. Now, who led that massacre? A guy called Stephen D. Green, who was on record as saying, "My main preoccupation in life is wanting to kill Iraqis." Now, Stephen D. Green got into the US military on a moral waiver, which was a program which went stratospheric during the War on Terror, because the moral waiver program is usually a small program where they allow felons and people guilty of serious misdemeanors to sign up because they wanted to recruit more and more troops. Moral waivers were given out like candy. Stephen D. Green was one of them. So you can see how the atrocities in Iraq were directly linked to the policy of loosening regulations. And again, with the neo-Nazis, it was quite hard to correlate atrocities to them in Iraq and Afghanistan, mainly because none of them are reported. We know a fraction of the massacres and atrocities that were committed in Iraq and Afghanistan. We only know some of it from what they did when they got back to the United States, where the rule of law can't be as easily discarded. So in one case, Kenneth Eastridge, a soldier, came back and killed a fellow soldier with another soldier. In the aftermath of that murder, his MySpace page was publicized where he had SS bolts. He was proudly displaying them while serving in Iraq. And in the court case for that, one of the soldiers that was with Eastridge said, "We used to go around Baghdad out of a tank just taking pot shots at locals." And then another soldier said at least one was hit. So you can see what the kind of culture was in Iraq, where these people were just seen as subhuman, effectively. And I talked to veterans, not extremist veterans, but veterans who came back and started activism against the war about the culture within the US military during Iraq and Afghanistan. And they said it was a racist war. It was presented like that. Commanders would call Iraqis Hajis, which is a racist derogatory term. They said, we saw them as subhuman. We saw them as people that needed to be contained and controlled. So what do you think is going to happen if you have that kind of psychology towards the occupied populations and complete legal impunity, because no atrocities, or very, very few atrocities, were ever, the people who commit them were ever convicted or tried?
They all lived by the oath that Patrick Henry made immortal: give me liberty or give me death.
There's a long history of this in the United States military, you know. Vietnam, one massacre really became famous and broke through to the mainstream. That was My Lai massacre, which was revealed by Seymour Hersh. But if you read historians who looked more into what was happening in Vietnam, they say that this was like a weekly occurrence. There were massacres all the time, but they just weren't reported and no one knew about them. And in fact, if Seymour Hersh hadn't done that work about My Lai, we wouldn't know about that massacre as well, because the US military's philosophy is deny, 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 deny until denial becomes impossible. And then they'll have to do something. The other part of that is when they have to do something, they always palm it off on the soldiers themselves. They say it's a few bad apples. Don't look at us. Don't look at the policies we're instituting, which have allowed this to happen, which is much more important. And this goes on and on and on.
During this summit, any of the leaders expressed any concerns on the possible violation of international law on the attack on Iran?
No, actually the opposite. They felt they were very dangerous. They were very relieved because they could get hit too. They were very relieved. No, we never discussed that. No, it would be the opposite.
I would say the MAGA movement is an outgrowth of the war on terror, because if you look at Trump's pitch, he presented himself as an outsider that was going against Washington. We know that was rubbish, but that was how he sold himself. And a lot of it was about going against the war on terror. And a lot of it was about going against nation building and foreign wars and putting America first. And this is the same rhetoric as Mussolini, making Italy great again. And it was the same conditions after the First World War and after the war on terror. So I'd say you couldn't have MAGA really without the war on terror. You just have to look at the power of the US military within American society. I would say it's by far the most important institution in the US society. Half the congressional budget goes on the US military. According to some estimates, $1.4 trillion a year. You'll talk about millions of people serving in it. So in that situation, how can you not have dynamics and trends within the US military not percolate out into wider society? And we have seen it. Vigilantism, violence, fascism, all that has been allowed to fester in the US military, and it, through the MAGA movement, has percolated out into wider society. And also the political culture that was created by the war on terror, you know, the heightened paranoid culture that we're under attack from outsiders or internal enemies, principally Muslims. That was all started during the war on terror, and Trump has seized the opportunity with Elam, but he is just taking advantage of what was already put in place. Also, the massive concentration of power in the executive branch. During the war on terror, Dick Cheney infamously started what was called the imperial presidency, where he tried to concentrate power in the executive branch, bypass the legislative branch. Trump's recent crimes, including Venezuela and Iran, no one even proposed that this was going to go for a vote. It wasn't even thought. And that is a consequence of that imperial presidency, which Bush put in place and was carried on by Obama. So MAGA and the monster that heads the movement is inextricably linked to the war on terror. The reason that link is not made is because the war on terror was a bipartisan catastrophe and crime, and they don't want to talk about their own role in creating Trump.
These demands are not open to negotiation or discussion.
One of the consequences of America's obsession with the military is that that institution has pulled resources and wealth from the rest of society. You have a completely devastated society in many ways. Massive levels of poverty, huge prison population, huge amounts of drug abuse, and also people can't get jobs, unemployment is high. That's a medley of factors, and you can't put it all down to the US military, but the US is now what's called a stratocracy, which is ruled by the military. And those kind of societies collapse eventually. If the US empire is going to collapse, internal collapse is more likely than being defeated abroad. The economics of it is a huge part of it. That got worse in 2008. And in fact, that was at one point in 2008, there were people within the US military who were actually delighted because with a much broader pool of unemployed people, the military became more attractive for the first time for a long time. And they took that opportunity. But you can't put the rise of fascism, MAGA, just down to what happened to the US military. Of course, it has economic roots as well. But the point is the economic roots are understood and talked about, but the US military part of it is not talked about at all. Part of that also is that it's a protected institution in a way no other institution is protected. You cannot criticize the US military.
You can't criticize it. If they commit crimes, they're not held responsible except by their own tribunals. If there's only civilians hurt, I don't think they care. There's like this thing about like I don't know like they always have say like over civilians.
The list of epithets you get called if you criticize the US military is long, and that happened to whistleblowers who were talking about the infiltration of neo-Nazis, gang members and criminals and others during the War on Terror. Daryl Johnson, the senior domestic terrorism analyst at the Department of Homeland Security, released a report which was actually a very important report where he said,
this guy's
look,
really good.
The veteran community and the active duty community are more susceptible to recruitment by white supremacists and neo-Nazis.
I like this guy, Politics Joe. Yeah, he's on the come up and he should be. He's fucking good.
Groups than a lot of different groups. Any like rational country or government would have looked at that and said, okay, we'll start dealing with this, or look, because we don't want a mass casualty domestic terrorism attack. What happened to Daryl Johnson happened to many other people. He was put out to pasture by the DHS. He lost his job and was persecuted. And I saw that again and again with whistleblowers within the US military. Anyone raising their head above the parapet and saying we shouldn't allow this to happen was persecuted and destroyed because they couldn't slow down. And anyone raising the alarm would have meant public pressure would build for them to slow down.
Since 1776, America's story has been a tale of freedom, overcoming oppression, good defeating evil, and faith overcoming every challenge and every foe. We had everybody was winning, and we're going to continue. Stronger, maybe stronger.
I think that America is now a stratocracy, a society ruled by the military. And I think that that's a sign of collapse. And in fact, there's a book by a guy called Arthur Farrell called The Fall of the Roman Empire, The Military Explanation. Now, Arthur Farrell said, look, if you look at what happened to the Roman military in the late 4th century and 5th century, they started recruiting soldiers from outside of Rome, so rival tribes. The troops themselves were much more ill-disciplined. And he said that when the fighting force became degraded, it was impossible for Rome to project its power in the same way. And another clue is in the fact that America can't win a war. They've just had their arse handed to them by Iran. They went in and killed a lot of people and kidnapped the president in Venezuela, but the same government that he headed is in place, admittedly with a more pliant ruler, but they aren't good at enforcing their military power, and they don't ever leave with a situation which is what you'd want to happen before you do the attack. Look at Afghanistan. They occupied Afghanistan, spent trillions for 20 years, and then within a few days, or maybe even the day they left, the Taliban took over. Vietnam, you saw the same thing. They left in 1973, and then South Vietnam fell in 1975. So that does hold out some hope for us, the rest of the world. You know, the US military and the people that write the policy in the White House and the Pentagon, they're not good at running an empire. They're not like previous empires in that way. They're very, very incompetent. And then add to that the current Department of War head, Pete Hegseth. You know, I wouldn't trust him to make me a sandwich. In the short term, it's a recipe for a lot of people dying. Maybe in the long term, American power is.
This guy's scared of the right wing because he's seen what it did to Britain. And now he's terrified. He's like, Pete Hegseth is a sign that you as Americans, you've lost your way and you've signed over Nazis into your leadership positions. And I'm sorry, it's just terrible.
Iran has done a good job of that, to be honest. But in the short term, a wounded tiger is much more dangerous than a healthy tiger. And America is a wounded tiger. The other problem for the world is that America economically, for a long time now, has been outcompeted by China. And China's economy will soon be bigger than America's. What America leads at is its military prowess. No one can touch America militarily. So if you are in Washington and you're trying to exert your power, you're going to say, well, we've got this military that no one can touch. We need to use it. That's our comparative advantage. And I think that's what you're seeing with the Trump administration. They know that the military is what they lead in, and they're going to use it again and again and again to enforce their will and try and rectify the economic gap that's developing with China. National security strategy last year, Trump's one, which gave birth to the so-called Dun Road Doctrine. If you read that, it just effectively gives the US military the right to do anything they want in the whole of the Western Hemisphere. They couch it under the rubric of combating drug trafficking, but they say anywhere we believe drugs are being trafficked, the US military can go in and kill people. That is new. You know, the US military has never bombed South America before Venezuela. So Trump is breaking all these norms, breaking these historical precedents. And I think it's only going to get worse. He's talked about going into Cuba. There's already been a brutal siege of Cuba. I mean, he's also talked about invading Greenland, which is a Danish territory, and Canada. So there's no limits to him. The US president has complete control over the US military. And this isn't to even go into the intelligence agencies, the CIA, which operates secretly, and we barely know anything the CIA is up to. And that is the personal force of the US president as well. So in some ways, when you look at foreign policy in the US, it's a dictatorship, which is run by a president completely without any accountability mechanisms. And that's often why they say presidents like focusing on foreign policy, because they don't have to deal with the legislative problems that domestic policy comes with. So I think it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Although I think the Iranian defeat hopefully has stopped the US military for a while. Who knows if it will carry on that way, but they were very, very shocked by Iran's ability to shut the Strait of Hormuz. They were shocked by Iran's ability to maintain the government in the face of huge subversion by the Israelis and the US. And hopefully they'll see that they can't, as easy as they think, collapse regimes, bomb regimes into submission.
That was it. This was so good. Thank you.
Do you have any advice for me to find really rich people in Jackson?
Jackson, Mississippi.
Look for really, really nice houses.
This is Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
The last of the Old West. And also, the wealthiest county per capita in America.
I didn't know that.
Everybody wants that shot, that view of the Tetons, and it's open to the highest bidder.
Here, the billionaires can be hard to pick out in a crowd.
Do you think you've met any while you're here?
Probably. I don't know.
They kind of blend in?
Yeah, I would guess so.
But even if you can't always see them, the impact of their wealth is impossible to ignore. That's because Jackson Hole isn't just the richest place in the country.
It's the richest
also
place in the world.
The most unequal.
Teton County is just for rich people now.
How bad is that housing crisis right now?
It may be one of the worst in the country.
For your average person outside of Jackson, this sounds bonkers.
So I spent a week here.
Here we go.
Looking for billionaires.
Are you a billionaire? Are you a billionaire?
Trying to blend in. To understand how this small mountain town became the wealthiest in the country. What that's meant for the people who keep it running. And what, if anything, it means for the rest of the country.
All the people that have all the power, they're coming here to just get even more.
Our story doesn't start in Jackson Hole. It starts here, on the other side of the mountains,
Colorado.
in Idaho.
Oh no, Idaho.
These are the people who make that town run. He's been involved in a lot of those hotels and a lot of that construction, and now he's living in Driggs.
Diana and Fernando moved from Mexico to Jackson Hole in 2002, where they raised their son Brandon for 14 years. Fernando found work in construction, building mansions for the rich, while Diana was a housekeeper and a nanny.
We are very lucky to live in this place because it's beautiful and it's very clean and there are open areas for growing family. But I think, especially right now, everything is very expensive.
In the last few years, they've been priced out of Jackson, first to Victor, Idaho, then to Driggs.
Next year, probably we move to Titonia. Next time, until they kick us out.
But their story isn't unique. Almost half of the people who work in Jackson are forced to commute from outside of Teton County.
So we're based out of Rigby, Idaho, but we drive back and forth every day for work.
How long's the drive?
About an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes.
One way?
Mm-hmm.
Prices in Jackson are so high that our film crew had to stay in a log cabin in Victor, forced to take the daily commute with the rest of the workforce over an 8,000-foot mountain pass. For workers who make this commute year-round, things can get pretty dicey.
A landslide wiped out a crucial state highway.
Officials calling it a catastrophic failure.
The first time I drove to Jackson, there was a terrible snowing. I was very scared, and I can see anything.
But on a clear day, when you reach the top, this is your view. Jackson Hole, with its towering Tetons and its sprawling mansions. Here, the top 1% make an average of $35 million, 221 times more than the 99%. So, how did that happen? Why did this valley, of all places, attract so much wealth?
There's always been wealthy people, but they very much wanted to be part of the culture that existed here.
Nikki Gill is a fifth-generation rancher in Jackson Hole.
When my dad grew up, Jackson was predominantly a ranching community. There were 80-something ranches. My great-grandfather, Robert Bruce Porter, started the Jackson Hole Hereford Ranch in 1928.
But while Nikki's family was building a working cattle ranch, the wealthiest family in the country was quietly pursuing their own plans for the valley. The Rockefellers had built the most powerful monopoly in the US, making them the world's first billionaires, and also earning them a reputation as ruthless robber barons. So they got to work repairing that reputation, and Jackson Hole became one of their most ambitious projects. They started quietly buying up land in and around the valley, and eventually donated more than 35,000 acres to the federal government, resulting in the creation of Grand Teton National Park. But that didn't just preserve this area's pristine nature in amber. It also made Jackson Hole an extremely desirable destination for the super rich.
Jackson Hole is a really comfortable place to live. It does help if you have a lot of money.
By the late 60s, Jackson had a world-class ski resort, attracting everyone from ski bums to billionaires. Then, in the 80s and 90s, America got a whole lot richer at the top. And if you had a fortune to protect, Wyoming was hard to beat. No income tax, no wealth tax, no worries.
Was there a time when you remember it starting to change?
I want to say early 2000s is probably when we saw some of the biggest changes.
More hotels, more rich people moving in.
Count the number of private jets at the airport kind of tells the story too.
In just a few decades, the per capita income of Teton County went from a little higher than average to the highest in the nation, higher than Manhattan or Miami. But if this place has so much wealth, where are all the rich people?
Where can I find me a billionaire around these parts?
We came out here trying to find a super rich person like a billionaire. Do you see them in town?
I don't know that I'd know the difference between them or somebody else, you know?
Unlike Miami or Manhattan, Jackson Hole isn't the... But even if you can't always see them, the impact of their wealth is hard to miss.
We got a house for like $800,000, and now the house is over $3 million.
Jessica Chambers moved to Jackson in 2010, just as property values were starting to take off.
Every year it gets worse by a larger magnitude than the year before.
In these years, Jackson increased the rents very.
As prices rose, investors saw a chance to cash in, buying rental properties, remodeling them, and selling them to customers with deeper pockets. But that meant evicting longtime tenants, like Diana and Fernando.
They sold to that rich person. I expect they increase the rent, but I never expect they kick out everybody.
By 2020, the housing crisis hit an inflection point.
What we might have seen in 15 years happened in 2. When everybody was homebound and realized they could work virtually or just wanted to get out of the city, they had cash. They came in and just paid cash for homes.
This neighborhood cost a pretty penny. Each one of these houses, maybe $10, $20 million.
1 bedroom, I think it's running $3,000 to $5,000.
For your average person outside of Jackson, this sounds bonkers.
It's why in Jackson, there's a saying, either you own a few homes or you work a few jobs.
I was at a doctor's appointment yesterday talking to my nurse, and she said she has 3 jobs. And I mean, that's pretty crazy. You know, nurses make a lot of money. And for her to say that kind of blew my mind.
Brandon is able to live in town, for now, by working 2 jobs. And because he lives in employee housing, a rare luxury in Jackson Hole.
They're supposed to build affordable houses for employees, but isn't it? They are very expensive.
And the problem keeps getting worse. The percentage of workers forced to commute from out of town has gone up year over year.
With the town growing, there's just nobody to work these jobs because there's nowhere for people to live.
So why is it so hard to build affordable housing in Jackson Hole? Well, for starters, thanks to the Rockefellers' generous gift, 97% of the land is public, meaning it can't be developed. On top of that, you have another 1.5% of the pie going to something called conservation easements.
Land conservation easements. Very, very wealthy people purchase homes that are on large lots, and they could develop like a $10 million home on this property. Well, they say like, we're not gonna do that. We'll just build a $2 million home. And then we get a tax write-off for all of the stuff that we could have built, but we didn't. And then that land gets locked away from ever being developed.
Which leaves less than 1.5% of land available for development. But even on that remaining slice of land, trying to build affordable housing is an uphill battle.
We've been in a housing crisis for decades, and you would think in a crisis we would move quickly to solve the problem, and I don't think we've done a great job of that.
In 2020, Nikki's family introduced Northern South Park, a plan to convert over 200 acres of their ranch land into a mixture of market-rate homes and dense affordable housing. If it went through as planned, Northern South Park would be the largest housing project in Teton County history. But if you go to Northern South Park right now, you won't find much.
We're 6 years into that project, and we're still years out from a home being constructed within that development.
We actually have some market housing finally happening, but on this other side where the more dense housing is going to take place, it's still greenfield.
Greg Epstein was on Teton County Commission when Northern South Park was first proposed. And he was on the inside as the process got slowed down again and again.
People in Teton County have been very apprehensive to develop too quickly, or at all for that matter.
It turns out this conversation isn't new. For 50 years, the community has repeatedly considered and rejected any attempt to build housing at Northern South Park. So What happened here?
Why, during a housing crisis, are we taking 6+ years to approve a development where 70% of the homes will be deed restricted for our local workforce?
It's really hard to say. I'm comfortable saying it. We have to look at limits to growth. And we need to say we're only going to grow so much and we will just be a smaller community.
Luther Probst is also a Teton County commissioner. He was one of the first and most vocal critics of the project.
I oppose Northern South Park. I don't see how it's going to work. We cannot build our way out of this crisis, despite what some of the rah-rah developer types like to say.
This desire to limit growth in Jackson Hole isn't new. You can find it in community planning workshops from the 90s, where residents express concern about rapid growth threatening small-town values and the loss of scenic beauty and wildlife. And you can find it in this document from 1994, which has shaped housing in the valley ever since.
The comprehensive plan is a guiding document for future development in the valley.
The first part of the comp plan is preserve and protect the area's ecosystem. That is like right there, number one. That's like what everybody goes back to.
Prior to 1994, all of the open land in the county was zoned 1 house per 3 acres. And that changed in 1994 to 1 house per 35. And that's a big change. The lack of supply has driven property values very high.
Jackson Hole has a long history of conserving nature, but there's another name for these kinds of policies.
What do we call it? NIMBYism? Okay. Not in my backyard.
But in this case, the backyard is the Grand Tetons.
You want to protect your view. You don't want apartment buildings.
And the NIMBYs are worth, in some cases, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Some of those people have the luxury of time. A lot of the people who this project would benefit don't have the luxury of time.
There's no end. There's no light at the end of the tunnel, I think, in this problem.
At one point, does housing our community become the priority?
But to understand what this...
I would just build a couple of blocks of apartment complexes and be done with it.
This community chooses to prioritize. It helps to follow the money. That's because Jackson Hole isn't just known for its wealth, it's also known for its generosity.
We have this nonprofit world here. Over 200 nonprofits for this community.
But not all nonprofits are funded equally.
Of those nonprofits, there's like 4 that get funding from the lion's share.
Here, there's no shortage of donations for conservation and the arts.
If you were to put it on a map, you would have these circles of, this is the Land Trust, and then Wildlife Museum, Center for the Arts. And then over here is the One Health and Human Service Organization, and then everything else is like dots.
We have the richest county in the country and we have 70-some homeless families. Like, that's shame on us.
Sarah Cavallaro runs Teton Youth and Family Services. In the last few years, she's seen another side of Jackson's housing crisis.
It's mom and dad are getting divorced. We don't have a house. We can't pay for food. We've got 7 jobs going on, so nobody's watching the kids.
But with recent funding cuts from the state, she struggled to make up the difference with philanthropy.
The priorities are completely fucking skewed. Like, they don't make any sense.
And even though affordable housing does occasionally get funded by wealthy donors,
A very generous donor donated somewhere around $20 million to lower the price of housing in a project downtown.
it hasn't happened at a scale that comes anywhere close to meeting the need.
There is a small donor pool for people that contribute to housing. That's just the way it is.
It's another reason why the Northern South Park project is anything but guaranteed.
That project will require 2 of our nonprofit housing providers to raise somewhere between $250 million and $400 million. I will believe that when I see it.
It raises an obvious question. Why can't the wealthiest community in the country find the money to provide housing for everyone?
All these people are like, doing these things in the name of conservation that ultimately benefit them.
The arts are definitely always getting funded. Go downtown and there's 10 galleries. You can't house a person in an art gallery.
They're not impacted by the lack of affordable housing. Maybe they lose their favorite server at the Thai restaurant they love going to. You know, it's like the hell with everybody else. I got mine. I'm not worried.
After spending a week in the richest county in America, I couldn't find a single billionaire who would talk to me.
So are you talking to any of the wealthy people?
They don't want to talk to us. No one wants to talk to us.
I get it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah, we're asking hard
You're not
questions,
surprised,
you know?
are you?
Yeah, no.
But what I did find was a breathtaking landscape in a community that's been completely transformed by wealth from the moment the first billionaires ever showed up.
The father of fossil fuels came here to buy land to protect nature. That's been a dynamic that's played out ever since then.
The mindset that people had when they moved here and the drive to preserve it and not allow anything else to happen is what made the biggest change.
Those same people flying in here on private jets, but then they come here and they protect the environment as a way to like give back.
It's easy to come here and enjoy and fall in love with it, but it's so hard on the locals, on the people who have been here, who make the wheels turn.
Yeah.
It's hard.
When the owners kicked us out, one lady say, "Hey, I have an idea. Why we don't go inside to the rich people empty houses and we live in there? They don't use it." And say, "And we go to the jail, lady."
But the situation in Jackson Hole isn't inevitable. It's not the result of some fundamental law of nature. It's a result of policy choices about how to carve up land, how much housing to build, and who should have to pay for it.
The devil's in the details here, like the policy details. The policies that are put in place support a particular kind of person. I mean, that's what we're seeing everywhere. And it's hard to undo that without people power.
If you were king or queen for the day and you could snap your fingers and fix this, what would you do?
I will doing more houses for the people. If the rich people can help to give more money to building more houses, real affordable houses, because they are kicking out all workers from Jackson. And I don't want to move from here because it's a wonderful place. It's a very, very beautiful community.
That's what our country is now, period. And like, this is just the most extreme version of it playing out. I guess that's what makes Teton County so special. It's a lot of the same, but like, it's very extreme.
I'm gonna save all these macros I just wrote. I'm gonna log out. This was good. It was really good. I had no idea Jackson Hole was the richest fucking city in America. That's crazy.
I want to be alone. Guy who now, after people humiliated him, is immediately trying to hang out with people on stream. No. I swear, it's that I want to be alone. Do you guys remember how there were like a collection of like 5 clips of Asmund talking about being lonely and being like, I don't know what I do. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my day. And everyone on the internet was clowning on him, especially after the like, men are more attractive than women or post, which was bizarro. It is crazy how easy it is to get to this guy, because without fail, if you make fun of him for something that he's actually insecure about, he'll start overcompensating. He went on this whole tirade about how he doesn't care that people say that he's a lonely chud or whatever. And then within like a week or two, he's bringing women on to be like, "See, guys, look, see, I'm not lonely. See, I'm not at all."
Willingly by his own choice for MapleStory yesterday.
It's because I'm so excited to play MapleStory, and I'm completely not a simp, and I'm not a pussy that's afraid to tell anybody no. I completely signed up for it under my own volition because I heard that the game was really popular, and I wanted to see what all the excitement was about.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh-huh.
What class are you going to play?
I was thinking about playing the same class as her. So
disgusting. Dude, Let it be known. I hate people who speak with their fucking mouth full of food. It's actually the thing that pisses me off the most about this on stream. That's like, I'm like, I mute. I'm like, I can't do it. I just can't. I know that it's just like a small thing that a lot of people don't care about. I don't like it when anyone does it. It's particularly bad when like someone who's talked about having like rotting teeth is doing it. OSHA violation. But I don't like it at all. It's so awful. Oh my God, dude.
Do you remember I played Lost Ark? And I was honing things. I would have a 2% chance I'd get that motherfucker. You're about to get mogged in your own game.
How do you know you're gonna be?
I'm just.
She's in the splash zone. Shut the f up. I want to be alone. Guy who now, after people humiliated him, is immediately trying to hang out with people on stream. No. I swear it's that I want to be alone. I want to be. I want to be. I mean, again, do you remember how hurt he was when Stavros made fun of him? Rough, dude. It's rough. It's rough out there. I'm not angry. Don't put it in the newspaper that I was angry. All right? Please don't. Please don't put... I swear. I'm not owned. You know the sad thing, too? The copium and, like, the replies of a bunch of his fans being like, Asmund, please. She's just using you. Please. Why don't you understand? All women are the same. She's just using you. It's like, oh my God, dude. Brutal. Yeah, telling a fat guy who makes being fat his whole shtick. Yeah, shut up, fatty. It's like stellar insult. What else you got? Okay, yep. You have correctly assessed. That man is indeed fat. Mm-hmm. Okay, now what? Now what? Anything else? Nope. All right. Got it. W observation. I do like Asmongold fans because they're really stupid, so their replies are all really stupid. Like when I get Chud comments, it'll be like, yeah, your hair is purple. It's like, oh, Jimmy just learned his shapes and colors. Good job. Okay, I know it's going to be scary, but numbers are next, okay? Oh. Oh God. Next, what goes in the square hole? Cheddar said, as a 6'6", 550-pound bouncer, customers calling me fat is so sad. Like I'm a pro wrestler, huge, and that's all they got. Yeah, I do feel like past a certain weight, it's like, especially the type of person that's comfortable being shirtless, calling them fat doesn't do anything. A fat person being comfortable shirtless, there's nothing you can say about their weight that would impact them.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Why did he say
that.
it in the Haley Stevens accent? He had to drop the black scent temporarily. He drops the black scent when he starts getting stressed. He goes back to his roots. If you're fat, go swimming with your shirt on and no one can tell that you're fat. Life hack. Stop. Stop.
It's true.
That is diabolical. That's diabolical. Like I said, you're not going to impact a fat person who's comfortable being shirtless by calling them fat. Yeah, I saw this clip. I don't even know what to say about this clip. It's just like, it's...
You want to get the one, not that one. That's a piece of shit. That's the good one. This one? Yeah, that's the good one. No.
Let's see your base.
What's so funny about it? What's so funny? It's a great base. What do you mean?
You're ugly.
What do you mean? It's a cool base. I do? Yeah. Wait. Do you mean in real life or in game?
In game.
Oh, okay. Well,
obviously.
Well, no, my base is great. I was just saying, in real life, I'd agree with you. No, it's my base is fine. It's optimized. It's optimized. Everything about this is perfect.
I was gonna go pee earlier.
Yeah. What about it? Is it?
What happened to your toilet?
What?
It's unusable.
What? I mean, it's unusable.
There's like the biggest dookie stain.
No, there's not.
There is. I can't use it.
Gross. Gross.
Okay, I'm gonna say something very bold that I think no one has really talked about, all right? Okay. Sorry, I'm edging you guys. I'm building suspense. Okay? I'm building it. I'm building the suspense. I don't feel like this is a great strategy for Asmongold because his whole, like, brand is built around being, like, a disgusting piece of shit who doesn't care about what anyone thinks. And that's how he gets all of, like, the chuds in his audience because they're like, so true, you're just like me. I also don't want to clean or do anything ever and make myself more likable to other human beings. So bringing, like, women over and then being like, well, time to change for them is not very relatable for your disgusting chud audience. Now, it doesn't have to be that everyone in his audience is a chud that's disgusting, but all the disgusting chuds that watch are like, that doesn't exactly invoke or like inspire confidence in their Roach King. But, you know, it's a bold move, so let's see how it plays out. Yeah, I don't know if you have the link to this, but that's exactly the same thing. It's like when that one incel posted in the incel group chat that he finally had sex and they all turned on him. Okay, for the Clippers, who immediately are like, how can you call him an incel? He literally has a woman right there. It's called an analogy. The purpose of the analogy is to show that once one of the members of the in-group starts to look like a member of the out-group, the people of the in-group no longer find them to be relatable. If you're a disgusting chud who watches Asmongold because it's your comfort character, because it makes you feel better about you being a disgusting piece of shit, and he starts talking about how he wants to be less of a disgusting piece of shit, it's just not very relatable is the problem. Comfort character is wild. I mean, this sort of is gore of their favorite comfort character, if you think about it. He's showering and cleaning his house. You sold out. I've seen his fans coping saying how much he's cleaned his house recently. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Whenever I'm like panic cleaning, because I'm about to have a guest over or something, there's always like two things I do no matter what. Okay?
Clean the
One,
toilet.
make sure that there's somewhere to sit.
Yep.
Because sometimes like
And
I
the
fill up my couches with like random stuff. It'll be like cat toys, clothing, things that I bought on Amazon, like cables, like just random stuff that has just accumulated over time because I don't really sit on my couch that much. And I'm like, where did all this stuff come from? Fuck. And the only other thing that has to get done is cleaning the bathroom. Okay? Like, bathrooms in general, like my bathroom in general is pretty clean because it grosses me out to have a gross bathroom. But you never notice, you have like bathroom blindness where you don't notice how gross your bathroom is but other people notice, right? Because I've been to other people's bathrooms and there'll be like one stray hair and it's so disgusting. And it's just like, it's literally just one stray hair, right? Or like the faucet and like the faucet handle, it's just like calcium deposit. I'm like, ugh. Looks suspicious. Even like spots on the mirror, like just water spots on the mirror. And it's like, where did that come from? Right? When it's yours, you know you're not doing anything disgusting by the sink. It's just like, it's just literally water and soap by the sink. But it's just so much more disgusting when you're going into someone else's bathroom. So like, that's like the number one thing that I always try to do. I'm like, toilet and sink need to be spotless. They need to look brand new. Because I feel like whenever I use other people's bathrooms, if the sink and the toilet don't look brand new, they always look a little gross. You feel me? Do you guys get what I mean? Which, like, when you keep a good space in general that's pretty clean, it's not that hard to, like, it takes me 5 minutes to make it, like, spotless, to make it sparkling. Because it's just like, okay, quick Windex, quick wipe down with, like, some antibacterial shine on the sink bowl and then the faucet and the granite or whatever. And then you just like put like the toilet bowl cleaner. And if your bathroom is pretty clean, You only leave the toilet bowl cleaner for like 5 minutes, and then you just scrub it, and then you flush, and then wipe it down. So it really doesn't take that much time at all, and it makes such a huge difference, I feel like. Oh, and cleaning the trash can in the bathroom. Those are like so huge. Your shower hair probably looks like Grimace. No, I actually think shower hair is so gross. I actually clean it very often. It's so gross. Blech. But anyways. Also, if you're making food, make sure the kitchen is clean too. Yeah. Admittedly, I'm not great about keeping the kitchen super clean because I just like I keep the counters clean. The stove is like a nightmare. Like the stove is like I hate cleaning the stove. I don't cook that much, but I hate cleaning the stove. But anyways, moving on. How many dishes in the sink are acceptable? Like 2 cups.
2.
A handful of spoons and forks. Well, sorry, I'm a purist. You shouldn't ever put like this is just me being insane. Let me just be clear. I don't like it when dishes are in the sink. It makes washing your hands more difficult. Depending on how much like space you have in your sink, I don't like it when they're in there. I don't like, and the other thing too is if you put like a plate and it kind of half covers the drain and then I just hate putting dishes in the sink is like, it's just awful. I just hate it. It's just terrible. You only have 1 sink? Kind of, yeah. Like there are 2, but like the second one I use is like a dish rack. Denims, you don't have 8 sink. They call her 1 sink denims. Bro is literally nonchalant about it. Bro, be chalant. Bro is literally, he's too Canadian. My job? Oh, I drive a train through the flames of hell. So, quick question, guys. Quick question. Is this a good thing?
But once again, this is Sunset at Holloway, and this is what's going to have to be repaired. So Sunset is going to be shut down forever. And I made a mistake earlier. I said Santa Monica Boulevard is open. I'm going to show you it is open. Not yet. Don't move yet, Marcel. It is open, but only to residents. But that's Sunset. So I'm panning to the left. Go to the left, if you would. And now we're starting to see some of the traffic implications. See, Sunset is shut down, and a lot of folks want to get to these businesses. But if
thank goodness somebody is thinking about the traffic implications.
Down Sunset, you're going to be turned around, and if you continue to the left, we're going to run into La Cienega, and that's where most of the traffic is being diverted. I'm kind of surprised they haven't shut it down in La Cienega.
Oh, it's a water main
There's
break?
La Cienega.
Oh,
So
wow.
bring up SkyMap for me real quick. I'm pretty sure that's La Cienega. I want to verify it. There we go. And if we pan to the right, you're going to see La Cienega. You take that south, right, and then you run into Santa Monica Boulevard, and that's where you could take SkyMap off. That's where the closure is on Santa Monica Boulevard. They are letting some traffic through, but it looks like residents only. They're not allowing any. That's eastbound traffic open, no westbound traffic.
Place you think within 47 months.
So as we open up out of the shot, tilt up a little bit, you're starting to see on La Cienega there on the left side of your
guys, La Cienega, this is going to be on the test, all right?
We're starting to see some traffic build, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Some of the buses are out, but you could tell they're getting into congestion. They're going to be delayed significantly. And here's Santa Monica Boulevard. I do believe, Philip, that Santa Monica Boulevard will be open in both directions to everybody sometime soon. There's some mud still left on the roadway. There's some standing water in some areas, but boy, it was about 3 feet deep in that area. And then as we tilt up, you can see it is really starting to recede as well along the bus route here, or the bus depot.
Oh
where
my
they keep
God.
all the buses, the bus yard.
All
So
the
they still
metro
have a long
buses
way to
got
go.
ruined.
Traffic implications are going to be huge throughout the day. There's no question.
Bro,
That's all water from the main. That's disgusting. In Los Angeles, where the water is a fucking terrifying thing.
It's literally exactly like my city skyline city.
And I'll push in one more time, Philip, to Sunset at Holloway. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. It's just really going to be an extensive project. It's not going to be easy. There's a lot of work to be done.
I'm going to be honest, Dems, this is just really devastating because the data centers really could have used that water. Thank you for that someone around here is thinking about the data centers. Okay? Because I was worried. I was like, I hope I don't have a bunch of fucking woke lefty losers that are not thinking about how this could be impacting traffic and how this could be impacting AI data centers.
Heard DWP talk about they just have to
Hey,
get the water out. They got to pump that out.
So, like, this is like, what do you guys think here? What do you guys think? You think this is a good thing? Is that good? Admittedly, I'm not a sinkhole expert, so it's possible that this is actually really good. Let's see here.
That's so
Streets
much
normally
water.
do that, right? Roads usually do that normally, right?
Do that, right?
Yeah.
See how full that sinkhole is from the
That
water main break
sinkhole
earlier
is.
this morning.
Seeing
Looks
how
like they're
full that sinkhole is, almost sexual.
starting to hook up some pumps there and siphon some of that water out so they could get down in there and start working on the main line. And then you can see the street that's buckled as well. So this is going to take some time, probably likely several days to make repairs.
Days.
To this section. It's right at the
You mean
intersection of
weeks?
Sunset and Holloway. And so expect Sunset to be shut down for about a block in each direction from.
Something like this happened near me recently, Denims, and it's on a way smaller scale. The manhole caved into a small sinkhole and it's taken 3 weeks to fix so far. This is going to take months to fix.
Holloway.
Yeah.
We're not seeing a lot of congestion as far as traffic on Sunset, and we'll start to make our way down Palm Avenue, which is where that water was rushing down earlier this morning. There's still a closure here on Palm Avenue between Sunset and
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Let's
Then you got to open it up a little bit, and then they have to assess how bad the damage is, and that'll give them an idea how long it will take to repair the water main. But then once that is done, you still have to create an area that you can completely repack to make sure you're going to have a substantial footing underneath the roadway, and then you have to put new asphalt down on Sunset. So it's going to be a long project. I think it could go into tomorrow.
Okay, we lost your mic there just at the end. Yeah, I want to pull up the traffic map. We're working on that to try to get to what you were talking about, Scott, because I think one of the things that you're pointing out, this is east and westbound traffic that's going to be affected with Santa Monica and Sunset, because it all comes together right there in West Hollywood, and here we are. We're kind of moving it around to find the incident. That's really not going to help us there too much. Talk to our director, and we take that off until we actually get to the map. But Scott, one of the things.
Look at where the lip of the manhole is. By the way, it dropped like 4 feet. Oh, okay.
I was noticing is, you mentioned that Melrose is about your best. And if you're heading north on Santa Monica Boulevard and you're wanting to go east, you'll need to get on Melrose before you ever get into this area. And so it's going to affect anyone that's going north and east or south and west, because when you start to approach that space right there, it's just, I don't know of a worse spot for trying to navigate through West Hollywood that you could have. And that's it could affect people in Beverly Hills as well.
Well, I think it will, Philip. I think what we're seeing is everything sort of expand out from this closure. Now, Santa Monica Boulevard is an east-west roadway, and Sunset's east-west, so it gets hurt the worst. And then Melrose is the major to the south side. You can't really get through east-west on the north without going through all the residences. But it is going to affect north-southbound traffic because everybody's being pushed on to La Cienega to the east, and then to San Vicente to the west. And
There's something so funny about, like, it's like absurdly funny, or it's funny in like an absurd way, that we have such massive infrastructure problems in this country and in like on every level. And the response is never, I mean, I get it. Like these guys, their job is not to actually push for reform. Their job is just to say it's going to be impact La Cienega. That's their job. But it's like, it's so absurd that like, the response is like, yeah, we really got to, this is going to be really bad for traffic. It's like, I feel like I'm listening to like GTA radio. Like, I feel like I'm listening to like a skit. I feel like I'm listening to like the City Skyline radio. By the way, this sinkhole, if you guys can believe it, I know this is shocking. It was actually because of a failure to maintain our infrastructure. You guys, can you believe that? Last time I checked, the U.S. was graded on like multiple different fronts. And I'm pretty sure we ranked like C or D on infrastructure and like bridges and stuff like that. Was it a D? Okay, sorry. I was being too generous when I said C. No maintain, only build new, but there's no new being built either. I've heard enough. Sinkhole for president. Dude, you're so right. You know what, man? You're so right. Why can't I hear this? Oh, here it is.
Don't sound good, Kevin.
Yeah. Well, David and Eyewitness News has learned that the 100-year-old pipe that burst was due to be replaced. In fact, LADWP called it a high-priority project.
7 on your side, investigative reporter Kevin Ozebek picks up our team coverage with the sobering details. They don't sound good, Kevin.
No?
Yeah. Well, David and Giovanna, for some context here, this pipe that burst today is much bigger than a water main. These so-called trunk pipes carry huge amounts of water into municipal water systems. Well, according to the LADWP, this trunk line was on its high priority list for replacement. But 700 side investigate.
Okay, guys, I think I'm going to take a small break before I have to go do stuff in real life. And so I'm going to pause here. And thank you for your time.